All right, welcome back to KTN Prime. Thank you for staying with us. As hinted earlier, it's now time for the conversation right here in studio, just borrowing from what we've seen play out in the political space in the last couple of days. Of course, it was busy in the coastal town of Mombasa as ODM painted the town yellow. And we'll get to evaluate some of the major pronouncements that were made by ODM allied leaders. Not just that, the united opposition has been busy canvassing the country ahead of the by-election slated for November 27th. It's a campaign homestretch. They had a couple of things to say just yesterday and today, and we'll take a look at that plus plenty more. Allow me to introduce my guests. Joining me in studio, I'm joined by the Migori Senator, Senator Eddie Okech. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us. It's been long. Karibu sana. Yes. Thanks for making time. Equally joined by Dr. Makali Mulu. He's the Member of Parliament for Kitui Central. Daktari, karibu sana. It's been a while as well.
Yeah, thanks, Jose.
Thanks for honoring the invite. Yeah. We'll definitely bring in James Gakuya once he comes to studio. He's the Member of Parliament for Embakasi North. And we just want to begin with what we saw over the weekend in Mombasa as ODM hosted the ODM at 20 celebrations. It was expected to be a moment of reflection and unity, but we definitely saw a couple of voices display different visions, especially senior members of the ODM party, and debate centered on the party's involvement in the broad-based government and whether the arrangement should evolve into a formal coalition with President Ruto ahead of a potential second-term campaign. Let's just listen into what some of the leaders had to say.
Ruto that needs ODM, kwa sababu ameshindwa. I'm not afraid to say.
If you don't want to leave them, if ourselves we are confused, let us not bring that confusion to the ODM people. That is the position. Otherwise, kila mtu atakuwa na kipande chake cha ODM.
Ndugu yangu Joho, ukiona mto unakauka, huo mto umesahau mahali umetoka. Ili tuweze kukipa hiki chama maisha na nguvu mpya, tukumbuke mahali tulitoka.
Some people are going to be used to try and divide us. Na mimi niko hapa nawaambia wazi, kama uko kwa hii jukwaa ama uko katika crowd, kama nia yako ulidhania ile pesa ambayo kwamba ulipatiwa utaweza kutugawanya, my friend, hapa ni wrong number.
Mkinifukuza nitawafukuza, mkinikujia nitawakujia, kikiharibika kiharibike, kama ni mbaya mbaya, kama ni noma noma, ama namna gani?
All right, just a sample of some of the sentiments that were shared by leaders. Of course, some leaders differed, and we have one of the members of the ODM party right here, and we'll definitely get his own personal take. So, Senator, it was a celebration like no other in Mombasa, but we definitely saw friction amongst the ODM members, especially the leaders who took to the stage. What's your evaluation of the sentiments that were shared by some of these leaders? And were there instances where personal interests superseded party interests during these celebrations?
First of all, Jesse, this is my first time coming on KTN studios since the loss of my party leader. And there are a number of people across the country. I think majority of the country certainly were followers of Raila Odinga and the ODM party, an institution that he built. And it is not a small loss. It's such a big loss for me personally, a friend, a mentor, a confidant, for the Odinga family, a father figure, an uncle, and all that they had. And then to the larger community of ODM. This is a painful loss, and therefore it behooves me to take this opportunity to say sorry. There are people who are still grieving. Certainly we are still grieving, but the people are still grieving in different ways. There are people who are followers of Raila Odinga and his ideologies and his vision who haven't even come to terms with this, yes. Citizens in the grassroots communities. So let me take this chance to say pole and to wish you the courage to soldier on with his spirit that he has left in all of us. Mm-hmm. And it's a pain that is not going to go away. Today, tomorrow, all life long, we're going to stay with this pain. And it's in the context of that pain that I also want to review what was going on there at the ODM at 20. ODM at 20 remember it was something that was already prepared by Honorable Raila Odinga. We were supposed to be in that ODM at 20 with him just before he traveled to India. Unfortunately, he was not to come and join us there. So when you see some of these voices, I think that I empathize with everyone because there are different emotions. Remember, it is only 2 days since we marked the first month since Honorable Odinga left us. So you can weigh the burden in all these individuals. All these individuals, including myself, had different special relationships with Raila Amolo Odinga. I don't think anybody has healed yet. So in the context of ODM, this is a healthy conversation because our party has always been that party that embraces conversations, embraces hard conversations for this matter, and embraces a democratic space where we have a conversation. And the context of those two are important. I think that the ODM at 20 celebrations, because it's something that we had anticipated, the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, this version came too soon after the burial of Mzee. I wish it could have taken more time for more reflections with different party organs, including things like the PG, the parliamentary group, different organs of the party could have had time to reflect more. But it happened the way it happened, and therefore emotions that were informed here are not necessarily something that should divide us. It actually should unite us because it means that people have got very strong opinions and very attachment to the party that they have. In Luo we say, "Gimabere migorwokne." Something that is good is what people fight for. And you see everybody is fighting for different aspects of the party. But I believe that, as I conclude, we would have done better in casting the vision that Baba shared, because the ODM at 20 was not an avenue to review the party position. The party position that we see came about as an unfortunate issue of Raila passing. Remember, before Raila passed, we were running what we call grassroots elections. And those grassroots elections, Baba Raila Amolo Odinga pronounced himself that after the grassroots party elections, we will have national elections for members. That was not to happen in ODM at 20. ODM at 20 is an avenue for us to be able to reflect on the issues that ODM has lived for. Okay, the vision that ODM has lived for, and Baba has cast in the country in terms of fighting for the people. Where are we now as a country in terms of those gains that have been made? Where can we be better? Which reforms should we be able to champion as a people going forward? I always ask people, if Raila Amolo Odinga was in this function, which is something we had desired that he was going to be in ODM at 20, what could have been his tone and his message? I doubt it would be about positions in the party and more about the vision of the country, evaluating the human rights progress that you have made, the constitutional merit that you have made, including things like devolution that he has fought for so much to see coming. Is it working now? As we speak, at the age of ODM at 20, students just went for about 2 months without teaching, and they were getting help, but they were held at school, and you could see that lecturers walikuwa wamegoma, but they were not getting education, yet they were eating this money. Is there a chance that you could make the student funding proper? As we're speaking right now, MET, as predicted, that we will have short trains next year. Yet we have got bulk of supply of maize in Kitale and other places. Is it a point where we're going to reflect about government maybe buying maize now and making sure that when the short trains comes next year, we don't go to a threatening life situation whereby drought and lack of rains could lead to problems in the future? So this kind of reflections on what matters to the people could have dominated the ODM at 20. But remember, we are still in hangover since Raila Amolo Odinga passed. So sometimes the agenda could have been set by different things, including pain, including panic, and all this is healthy, and it's just a time to embrace compassion among all these leaders who had different opinions in the ODM at 20.
Okay, interesting. A diplomatic reply right there. From outside looking in, Makalimulu, what do you make of the celebrations and the sentiments that were shared? Who needs ODM? Ruto, or does Ruto need ODM? You had Orengo.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jesse, for hosting us.
Yeah.
I think it has been a while since we had a show like this.
Yeah.
It's been a bit hectic. A few times I've been approached to come. It's been a bit hectic on my side in terms of timings. And I'm happy to see Senator because the last time I saw him, he was in a very bad mood. Actually, when the news on the passing on of Raila got to Kenya, we were with him early in the morning in the gym. And I could see the way he was affected. So I'm encouraged to see him healing and coming up.
Yeah.
Coming to the issue of ODM at 20 and what we are saying, what I would say, and I've said it many times, you know, Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, as a party leader of ODM, was occupying such a space where nobody imagined one day he will not be there. And I think what happened was a shock to everybody. So when this happened, I think we expected what is happening. First of all, people were taken aback because I think even up to now, some people have not believed that Baba is not there.
That's true.
They are still in that, imagination. Is it true? It's not true.
Denial, yeah.
And what happened, I think because they had planned the ODM at 20, even before Baba passed on, the fact that he passed on as they were doing it and they could not stop it, that's why you see now people, to some extent, are not in that sober mode to make the decision they would be able to make because some are still in that imagination. Is Baba still not there? Because you could even see some make statements, it's like everybody's making reference to Baba. That Baba did say this, but from where I sit, I think what I'm seeing is expected. It's just like when a family loses the head of a family.
Yeah.
And the head of family was so domineering that, from where I come from, we say, when your father is alive, irrespective of the age, he could be very old and not adding value to that home. But so long as he's there, even if you have your own style of leadership, you must suppress it to allow them there to. So I think when Baba passed on, it's like, now, what are we going to do? So to me, ODM is now in a transition stage. And what is happening now is a matter of how do they manage the transition? Because there are those who want the status quo. There are those who would want things change. And I remember just before Baba passed on, there was this debate, are we in broad-based beyond 2027? Or are we in broad-based up to 2027 and then we make our decision? And I remember at one point, Baba came out very strongly and said, who says that after 2027 we will not have a presidential candidate? So out of that sent some signals out there.
True.
It's like Baba was saying, gentlemen, I'm the one who's managing this agreement with Kenya Kwanza, and from where I stand, it's like my position is up to 2027. So after 2027 then, what do we do? And I think if you look at all these statements, that's the only contentious issue, because there are those who are in government and those who are already, like the CSEs who are in government from ODM. With them, they are saying they would want to see this working together going beyond 2027.
Yeah.
And it's understandable, Jesse, because the thing is, these gentlemen were elected members of parliament, some were nominated, they vacated those positions to become CSEs. So assuming now, Okech says today, we terminate the broad-based government today, what happens to those guys? They will be jobless. So to them, what they're saying makes a lot of sense. That can we gentlemen agree that we push this even beyond, because if they agree to push it beyond, those guys might be assured of another term.
I get you, yeah.
Now, if they say stop it, that means they have to rethink their future. Do they go back to politics or what do they do? And I think these are the issues. So what I would want to say is, and there's another element now of the young politicians, or ODM politicians, like Senator here, is relatively very young. And with him, he's also looking at this future. So the worst bit is, when you analyze our politics now, we all know about 70% of the voting bloc is young Kenyans. That's the age of Kesh, Babu Owino. And they're saying now, is it not our time also now? Since we are the majority, is it also time then we get some space in the way you are organizing the leadership? And you saw the issue of leadership become very, very controversial.
Definitely. We just want to play that bite as you proceed, because Winnie Odinga raised an issue that caused a little bit of friction, calling for a national delegates conference to elect new leaders, arguing that such decisions should be made by delegates rather than boardroom processes. Of course, we had the party leader, Dr. Oburu, attempt to ease that growing tension. Let's just listen to what was said.
The relationship is complicated. And therefore, we are looking and we are wondering, those that are taking it upon themselves to manage it now, are they capable of managing that relationship? I don't think that is a question for me to answer. That is a question for the people of ODM to answer.
Ulisikia mtoto yangu Winnie akisema ati Raila alikuwa hapo na sasa tutafute mwingine kusaidia kuendelesha hii broad-based government. Ninamwambia hiyo mtoto yangu tutaongea na yeye kinyumbani.
Okay, interesting sentiment right there. Allow me to appreciate the presence of James Gakuya, the Embakasi North Member of Parliament. Better late than never. Asante sana for your time. Welcome. Just before we engage you, I'd like Senator's take on that, because who exactly is managing the broad-based arrangement right now, post-Raila? And do you agree that an NDC should be convened in order to get the proper leadership, as Winnie Odinga might be hinting?
You know, I said this on Citizen in the morning, that the broad-based arrangement came out under a special circumstance, where we were losing a country. I don't want to go into deep into history, because a number of our leaders have spoken to this. Honorable Odinga has been very clear on this, both in political rallies, in a number of interviews with media houses. It was very clear that we were just at the brink of losing our country last year. And therefore, it was important to bring about stability and steady environment for government to be able to operate. And therefore, the rationale for broad-based government was very clear. And that's why when Raila Odinga was still alive, he chose to lead that relationship within the organs of the party. And I think a number of times, Honorable Odinga was very clear about the central committee of the party making decisions with regard to broader issues that affect the party and any relationship, including broad-based relationship. Remember when there was something called the 10-point agenda? It was not crafted by Raila Odinga. It was crafted by the party organ called Central Committee, which was then read by Honorable Sifuna. And even after the burial of Honorable Raila Odinga, the Central Committee did convene, and Honorable Sifuna reiterated the position of the party with regard to that relationship. So it is very clear in our mind, at least the majority of us in ODM, that there is no question whatsoever on the issue of broad-based government, because we are very clear that we are in broad-based government. We are supporting the vision of the broad-based government as is. In fact, Honorable Janet did a very good job, Janet Mohamed, if you were following at the dinner conversations. He did give a scorecard of what the broad-based government has done, which is about 50%. And of course, whatever thing that is needed to be done in that broad-based arrangement takes time. Some of them takes time. And if there's a 50% score, the evaluation metrics for the broad-based government will then happen at 2027 based on the achievement of that 10-point agenda. So if somebody is trying to be sketchy and escape the commitment to broad-based government, that could be a personal interest. But it is clear that we are committed to broad-based government. And I don't think that this is what Winnie Odinga was questioning, because Winnie Odinga is just as committed to broad-based government as all of us are, and even to the Central Committee, which is now currently managing that arrangement. And even if you have got any leader, like right now we have got Honorable Oburu Odinga, who we all support as our party leader, committed to leading the party, he will lead that party and he will lead that relationship based on the organ of the party, that is the Central Committee. But the question that Winnie is bringing, which I think is also we also support as a party, which could have been a misnomer in the arrangement of ODM at 20 is the fact that acting party members, other than Honorable Oburu Odinga, because Honorable Oburu Odinga came in the pretext of a very big catastrophe.
Okay.
So that's a special issue that came about. But all the other party acting leaders ought to have been ratified under Article 6.2 of the ODM Constitution. What does that article say? That the top national leaders of the party will be, elected in the National Delegates Conference. I think that is a genuine issue that Winnie raises.
Okay.
And it's not necessarily to banter somebody or pick up a vendetta with anybody. It's just that as we seek for the unity of the party, you would want the biggest chunk of people, the highest swath of membership of the party, to be able to express confidence in all the leadership of the party. I think this is what Winnie was expressing without necessarily picking a banter with anyone.
All right, as we bring in Gakuya into the conversation, I'd like us to hear what your colleague, Senator Samson Cherargei, had to say about the positions that are up for discussions post this broad-based agreement as we approach the 2027 general election. And he said two positions are not up for discussion: the presidency and the deputy president slot. Well, remember, the ODM party leader had spoken not too long ago saying that the minimum they can accept is the deputy president's slot. Let's listen in.
I want to tell them waombe zile vitu vingine mpaka ya mzee ameta. Lakini tukienda any negotiation in building a coalition going into the future of 2027 to 2032, the deputy president of His Excellency Dr. William Ruto is Professor Senator Kithure Abraham Kindiki, kwa sababu ya shukrani yetu kwa kusimama na kijana yetu Rais William Ruto. So I want to tell wenzangu, kama ni wale tuko broad-based, kama ni wale wanataka tufanye kazi pamoja, viti yote mbili ya juu ya rais na deputy shaenda. So jipange, labda waombe ile ya kanisa ama sijui ya gani, but they should watafute ingine, kwa sababu hii yako ni assured.
Okay, Gakuya, it appears the senator let the cat out of the bag. In short, saying that deputy president's position is not up for talks. So Kenya Kwanza would negotiate for the president's or the deputy president's slot. Is this an eye-opener to the ODM party from outside looking in, or is it simply political posturing?
Thank you, my good friend. Getting from what the senator of Nandi has stated, he cannot be judged as the sole spokesman for the Kenya Kwanza government. I think in the pecking orders of Kenya Kwanza, I don't think he's anywhere in a position to stand to state the position of the Kenya Kwanza future broad-based arrangement. But having said that, where there is a smoke, most of the time there is fire. And his pronouncement most probably has been spoken elsewhere or has been negotiated somewhere else, and he has only coming up on trying to speak out on what has been discussed. Probably that there is a kitchen cabinet somewhere that has talked about it, but I don't know whether sometimes people like Senator, my good friend Senator Cherargei, have been used to just to
test the waters.
To test the water, and probably that is what he's doing. But what will matter, and this is what will happen, is that don't forget that this position was in somebody else, and it was taken away. And then it's not hard for the same position to move from that position to another. It will depend, because William Ruto, what is looking in his election is numbers. And he has a good time for a year to assess whether most likely the known Mount Kenya region is going to soften or is going to be as hard as it is. And at the end of at the tail end, don't forget that this is not the carrot he can play with. He has no any other position to play with. And therefore, he will press this carrot to where he will be sure that he will garner numbers. Because at the end of the day, what he's looking is numbers to get re-elected. And therefore, it's a position which is very tricky. Because once, it might be lobbed from Mount Kenya region and taken to Nyanza, then there will be also questions in the Western. Because also Westerns have been touted to be also supporters of William Ruto taking Mudavadi is there and the Wetangula is there. And such a big carrot, if it is being taken away from where it is today, and then taken to Nyanza region, then there have been questions even the other neighboring Western region, where they would also wish that if such a carrot is free, then they should be the beneficiaries of the same. So it's a very tricky, balanced kind of position, because if most likely ODM will be stuck and make it as a condition that if not is anything less than this, we are not going to give you the support the warmth of support you need. Then it means that he has to strike a balance, and he has to put exactly where he believes he will garner the numbers he will. He has to assess what numbers he's expecting from Nyanza and compare vis-a-vis what he's about to get from Mount Kenya region. Okay. And that particular political arithmetics is what will make his final judgment. But as much as it is an election, it is a position that he will not going to play a character on it. I am sure he will just make sure that he is going to position the position of the deputy president, not to where it is today, but to where the numbers will be showing to be coming from.
Okay, it's a game of numbers at the end of the day. Makali, from your point of view, what do you make of this?
Maybe before I come to the issue of Charagai, let me just comment on the issue of what Winnie was saying.
Definitely.
You know, I totally agree with the Senator when he says that in terms of how you assume office in a political party, the National Delegates Conference is the one which actually confers position to people. So anytime you are given by another level, could it be NEC or even the party leader, is on acting capacity. So that when we get now to the National Delegates Conference, then that list will be read and it will be confirmed by the delegates. So that process has to be, for most parties, is just clear that way. So legally, I think what Winnie says makes a lot of sense. Yeah. But I think the issue she was raising, which I think we've not addressed, she was talking about management of the relationship. And I think what she was saying basically, and I think she needs to say it, because if you have been watching in the past, when Baba was still alive, anytime we went to sign for these agreements, it was either with Winnie and Junet. So it's like she was saying, the people who have a bit of insights. You know, when you are signing, there's what you sign, and there's what you say casually, the off-the-cuff chatting.
Of course.
It's like he's saying, maybe the people would manage this relationship better because they have the off-the-cuff comments, could either be her or Junet. And that's, I think, is the issue she was bringing to the table. So the question is, was the briefing then properly done in terms of that briefing from whoever has been doing it to the next person and those who are the witnesses? And I think that is a point that maybe ODM will need to discuss, because it's an internal matter.
Definitely.
And when the current party leader says they will do it Kenyumbani, I think the ODM is a party. So let it also be, as he was saying, the structures of the party, let them be used to get to that position. Now, coming to Senator Cheregai, you know, the question I was asking when I saw him say that, and it was in charge. So we must take this very serious, because that was actually in charge.
With Kindiki present.
With the Kindiki present.
Yes.
And he was sending a message saying, you guys, anybody who is thinking of saying for us to support you, we need a deputy president position, that position is already gone. So start adjusting your thinking and your imaginations to something. It's only that he brought it too low. Now, in this arrangement, there is no village elder. You can't be negotiating at the level of village elder. I think he went too low. But you know, Cheregai, we know him, he can say anything. Even in shows like this, we tell you something and you say, what's wrong with this guy? But I don't agree with Ngakuya when he says he's talking for who? Because I don't think Cherargei is mad to say such a thing in a judge. So, you know, in every party, there are those people who would be sent to say something to test what people will say. And I think really our brothers and sisters in ODM will have to analyze that statement. They need to sit down and look at that statement and say, what does it tell us? So that even as they gauge, because some are saying let's engage beyond 2027, others are saying let's engage up to 2027, so that as they gauge, then this statement coming from Cherargei cannot be taken for granted. It has to be critically analyzed and the implication agreed by the party.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Very quickly on something he's mentioned about Winnie Odinga. It is painful that Baba had to go now. And it's even painful to discuss transitions in the context of Baba. It's something that I shy away from because I don't think we're going to grieve enough. And I hope that we get strength to be able to lead our people and move this party in unity. Yeah. But let me tell you, a leader in the caliber of Raila Amolo Odinga, who had very clear vision for the country, and his gains have been made through sweat, blood, and struggles that we all know as a country we cannot run away from. It would be important that when you think about the transition, you think about what are the key assets that he has left. And in my personal view, this is my personal view, and that's why I said on Citizen today that the ODM at 20 ought not to look at the positions. The issue of confirming positions and all those things should have been done independent of the agenda of ODM at 20, because if you're looking at the position of the party, the key asset that you want to look away from Raila would be the assets in human resource. And there is no any human resource assets, sincerely, that you can be able to look for in the ODM party, other than people who are closest to Raila Amolo Odinga. Starting with Honorable Oburu Odinga, a man who has known Raila Amolo Odinga with his virtue, values, and vision for 8 years. Okay. That's an asset you want to accommodate in the party. Yeah. The second, very close to that, if she was political, would be Ida Odinga, who is not political. But then closer to that is Winnie Odinga. Winnie Odinga is somebody who has known Raila as a boss, a father, a best friend, and a confidant. So as a party, if I was in a position where I could be able to influence the asset that we need to harness very fast, and I know there is temptation to say that, oh, is this going to be a Odinga party or whatever? Exactly. I think you wouldn't think about it that way. You think about key assets that will help the party move forward. Would be somebody like Winnie Odinga, somebody like Oburu Odinga, without looking at the Odingaism into the party. And then he started looking at other key assets who are closest to him in terms of unpacking his networks globally and locally, like Honorable Junet Mohammed, like Honorable Joe. All these people, you want to gather them in a room first before you lose them. This is a comment that I just wanted to make in the context of just looking at key assets that Raila Amolo Odinga left before looking at it in the infrastructure. But very quickly on Cherargei, I think Cherargei, I'm a football fan and I play football. And I quit Cherargei to a vuvuzela. You know, when you watch the game of football where there's vuvuzela in a field, they can drown the referee. Because Cherargei's mind is very simplistic for two reasons. One, the selection of a deputy party, deputy president in any coalition is a derogatory of the president, okay? That you let the president look at the person that you'll be able to work with better. And I think that this is something that eventually the President Ruto will be able to figure out in whichever part of the region which is bringing in. But secondly, people like Cherargei are people we must dissuade from this perspective that you can keep on balkanizing our country into tribal cocoons. Because he's talking about regions, balkan them into tribal organizations that I think that President Ruto has successfully maneuvered to get out. In fact, you know, after agitations that we have seen with young people and other political parties, I think Mugala Muwe, that's why the Swahili people say Mugala Muwe lakini akimpe. President Ruto has strived to be able to drive some economic agenda that can be able to lead the country into thinking about him as an economic engine for the country. If I was just to go through them in just briefly in 1 minute, President Ruto has managed to have 7 million people deregistered from CRB. I would think that those 7 million people will be able to look at President Ruto not from a tribal perspective. President Ruto has managed to digitalize 6.6 million farmers, whether Kikuyus, Luos, or Westerners. He has managed to do that. President Ruto has managed to change milk prices from what he found in 2022 at 35 shillings to now 45 shillings. And these milk beneficiaries are in Kikuyu land, are in Luo land, are in Turkana land, everywhere. Okay. You can see this. Yeah. Just shortly, President Ruto has managed to raise the price of coffee from 65 shillings in 2022 to now over 110 shillings a kg in 2025. President Ruto has managed to make sure that tea prices have risen from 138 shillings to now over 215 shillings. You see, if I go through all these things, including the sugarcane plantations that we are seeing in Western Kenya and in Nyanza, you will find that President Ruto has increased the sugarcane production from 490,000 metric tons to about now 1 million metric tons, and made sure that we have dropped the importation of sugar by 70%. I haven't even touched on maize. These are economic indicators that show that after agitation, the man has raised to the occasion of making sure that in the spirit of broad-based arrangement, these things can be attained so that there's an equal development platform for all Kenyans. I think this will be the basis for which he will be seeking for re-election, and he will be seeking for people to support him across tribes. So Cherargei cannot gag us into a tribal organization thinking about 2027. We will be thinking about economic merit as young people. And I think this is something that we should be able to give credit where credit is due to President Ruto.
All right, but many might argue for one good, there's a couple of bads. And I'm pretty sure the gentleman right there doing press-ups. But as we continue with this discussion, Gakuya, I understand that the United Opposition has been quite busy focusing on the campaign home stretch when it comes to this November 27th by-election. Just yesterday, we saw quite a couple of them in Mbere, including Makali Mulo. I didn't see you. Maybe you were part of the crowd as well. But I'd like to listen into some of the sentiments that were shared by these leaders as we evaluate the steps taken by the United Opposition before that particular election next week. I think it's in a couple of 10 days thereabout. Let's listen in.
Sahi kila Mkenya naamini Mlima iko kwa United Opposition. Si tunaamini hivyo? You imagine if we lost this seat. Sasa itakuwa inaonyesha nyinyi watu wa Mlima mko kwa Kenya Kwanza. Sitakuwa inaonyesha hivyo.
We are going to make sure muungano umesimama ili tuweze kuokoa Kenya.
Wewe William Ruto unasema ati sisi hatuna akili. Wewe unasema watu ya Mbere hawana akili. Tariki 27 ikifika saa 6 ya usiku itajulikana kati ya William Ruto na watu ya Mbere nani hana akili na nani yako na akili.
Okay, Gakuya, as you reflect on what has been said, including what Makali Mulu said, United Opposition has been criticized for spreading divisive narratives. If you listen to the president, that they are simply advancing their political agenda while lacking any meaningful agenda for the country. How do you respond to such claims?
Number one, let me say that every regime is elected to fulfill their obligations, because every single regime which moves to seek what you call votes from public convinces the public through what we call blueprints, and the manifestos are the ones to the checks and balances, because you sell your manifesto, and that is what we expect you to implement. And where we are, I believe I cannot stand to say that the Kenya Kwanza government has done zero, but it has have some plus, but it has also some minuses. And looking at the whole picture is that there is a lot of dissatisfaction, that if Kenyans could be feeling the growth of the economy, the growth should be felt from the pockets of the Kenyans. not from the air, not from the mouth, but from the pockets. But there is no such a time that Kenyans are in state of poverty like today. And I can tell you from the shoe shiner, from every business, everybody is crying. It tells you there is no what we call circulation of money. And when the circulation of money is not there, we are completely wrong. And one thing, let me say, as much as we are fighting to pay external debt, it is also important to know that you are heralding Kenyans, local domestic service providers money. When you don't pay the pending bill for the local suppliers, local contractors, it is right from the county government to the national government. But you are busy to pay external debts. Where do you want the economy to be held? Internationally or locally? The answer is Kenyans must feel that warmth of the economy. And I can tell you, as we speak today, the money is only with few pockets. But almost 90% of Kenyans are in cry. Whether they are in farming, whether they are in business, whether they are anywhere, because circulation of liquid cash is not there. I think if this government should do Kenyans any good, is first and foremost deal with the pending bill, because pending bill are touching the hearts of locals. Pay them right from the national government, ask the counties to pay them. But when you hold Kenyans, and Kenyans every day, they have been auctioned because of those delayed pending bills. Where do you want Kenyans to go? The feeling of the economy is the pocket.
Okay.
And when everybody is crying, whether you try to tell us that the economy is growing, it's not growing in heaven. The economy must grow from the growth from the ground. And the feeling should be felt to the pockets of Kenyans. And I can tell you, in terms of whether this government is doing anything, there is one project that William Ruto has convinced this country that it is his child, and this is affordable housing. And he was to convince Kenyans that affordable housing will create jobs, and youths and everybody else will fit there. It is not felt, but the buildings are there, but you can't feel that economy allowed. It is not there. So my big question is, if it is affordable housing cannot convert to give jobs, where are the jobs? And the question is, when we kill each and every project for youth, because what we did, because of affordable housing, we totally killed what we call kazi mtaani. And what are we doing with those youths? We are making the youths idle and helpless. I think the national government, what should do is to think on how do we do with the 70% of youth that are jobless. In fact, what the government is doing is to look for skilled export. But what are the national government doing locally to make sure that there are spaces of youths who are just getting out, living from the secondary, from the universities, from colleges, and those who are dropouts? What are you offering for them? There is nothing where they can turn to say that there is opportunities. And if we are not creating opportunities locally, do you expect that, in fact, exporting people to the developed countries is any cure of assisting the huge number of our youth jobless? I don't think that's an answer. An answer is think of how to industrialize the country, make sure that you give what we call the best environment, make sure that those gaps are there, because we have a big problem in what we call cost of production. We are not addressing that point up to now. We are the highest in terms of power rates around East Africa. We are the highest in terms of tax regime. We are at 44%, when our neighboring are at 29 and below, and we are doing zero about that. When you are neighboring are your biggest competitors, and you are not leading from what is happening, the industrial, the manufacturers are closing the stores and moving to the neighboring. I think we are wrong somewhere, and we must address that if we are going to address about issues to build jobs, create jobs, and build economy.
Okay, well, you're speaking matters economy next to an economist. So from your evaluation, briefly, how has this government performed? Because I'm sure you had President Ruto's interview in Al Jazeera touting how the housing has created, he's targeting 1 million jobs for youth, how we're exporting talent, you know, this is job creation from where he sits. How would you rate it, evaluate? Because he's given the State of the Nation address, I think, this week, Thursday.
He did. Actually, if you remember, Jesse, when President Ruto was celebrating 3 years in office, studies were done. And the best way to evaluate your performance is to use your manifesto. In Kenya Kwanza manifesto, they had 270 performance indicators, 270. And by the time they got to their 3rd year in governance, they only achieved 5% of the performance indicators, which was 10% is 27 indicators. 5% is about 13 or 14.
Thereabout.
So unless we want to evaluate this government outside the implementation matrix, then 5% by any standards is not even a D, it's below a D. And that's why I would want to encourage people who are supporting this government to look at the implementation matrix and the performance indicator column and see, we promise to do this, and tick the boxes. They will be surprised. Because, you know, anytime they talk about the affordable housing, they talk about affordable housing as if it is everything in the manifesto. It was just one of the items in the manifesto. And if I come in as an external evaluator, I will only take a box and affordable housing. But what is happening to all those other indicators? The other thing is, at the end of the day, what Kenyans care about out there is access to basic services. Is our education working? That's the first question. And I know many Kenyans will say we are having challenges at the basic education, college education, university education. That's why you see most of the time our lecturers in the streets, capitation is not coming. Let's move to the next item, which is critical to Kenyans, health. Is health working? Some are saying SHA is working, others, but the majority are saying it's not working. And I think these are the hard questions we need to ask this government. And that's why you see, us who are in the united opposition, although now we are not calling ourselves united opposition, we have changed the name to government in waiting, because in a year and plus we'll be taking over the government.
Okay.
What we are saying is, if you look at what is happening currently in our country, Kenyans have reached a level where they're almost giving up, majority of the Kenyans. There could be a few. And I told you the other day, there are a few who are celebrating this government because at personal level, their local economy has really changed. You know, there are those who, when we started, even including ODM, there are those who came just the other day. And if you look at their lifestyle today, it's only that this country, we have never agreed to do a lifestyle audit. That will be surprised. But majority of the Kenyans are crying. Okay. And what has happened of late is the president has actually pushed this presidency to a level which I think he needs to get concerned. He's become very abusive. He's mocking every other leader in this country. You remember he has said some of us are brainless. He has said some of us have no plan. He has said some of us can only say Ruto must go. And when you look at those statements coming from the president himself, you relate that to what Jesus went through when he was about to be crucified. You remember when he was carrying the cross? There were those who are mocking him, telling him, if you are really the Son of God, why can't you save yourself? And I'm telling you, that level of mockery is very dangerous for a leader.
All right.
Because you start missing the objective issues. So what we are saying from where I sit as our United Objective, we were telling our people in Bere yesterday that now Bere by-election, Mangarini by-election, and the Malava by-election, this is the first chance you have been given by Kenyans now, by the Constitution, through these by-elections, to start telling this government that you are not feeling the government. By doing what? By voting out the government candidates and bringing in alternative leadership. By sending that signal out there, they will be telling, this is now the way we are starting, and by 2027, this is the way things will be. Okay. So if they don't get that right, and that's what I was saying basically, because like anybody you talk to, where Gakuo comes from, Central Kenya, we are saying, it's all one term. That's what they are saying. But for them to confirm that statement is one term, then Honorable Karish must be the MP on 2027 in Berenoth.
All right.
So that we start now sending the right signals. And then the other side is saying, I must say this, Jesse. When we were there yesterday, if you realize, it's after every rally we went to, by the time we were crossing over to the auxiliary,
Ruku was already
there. You know what he was doing? He was just coming to dish out money. So the question is, whose money is he dishing out?
Okay.
Whose money? This is money should have done development for these forters of Berenoth. He's giving them to put it in the pocket. The question is, after giving them 100 or 1,000, how much remains in his pocket? And you'll be surprised, he might be giving only a quarter of what he has been given by the government. But at the end of the day, this is public money being given to the public under pretext that we want us to vote for us, and then development disappears. The other thing Japan, which is very bad.
Finally,
the president was actually in our region last week, Ukambani. And he launched quite a number of projects, a number of developmental projects, roads and what. Immediately he left Ukambani, and you can send your reporters go and confirm. All those tractors took off.
But these projects budgeted for, I guess.
From where? That's why we get so hurt. When we hear President saying we have no brains, and we know what is supposed to be done in terms of budgeting and all that.
Okay.
So the only thing you go and see there, ile kibao inasema ili was launched by President Ruto, tinga imeondoka, everything is gone. Now, who is pulling who? That's the question.
Do I comment on this?
Yes, briefly, as we finalize.
Yes, I think it's unfair to look at the president's comments without the battle of ideas. Because any moment somebody says that probably you're brainless, it doesn't say that you don't have a brain. It just means that you've got half-baked ideas.
Okay.
Or you just have what you call moronic
briefly,
sense of, what do I mean by this? When president has proposed affordable housing, and you're fighting affordable housing, what is the alternative you're proposing? That's a fight of ideas. When president has proposed SHA, and you have got, you are fighting SHA, what is your alternative that you're proposing? That if you have none, you're brainless. When president has said that when they came into office, President Uhuru Kenyatta had 1,000 kilometers of road committed to, with contractors going unpaid. And the president has proposed that we have what we call a road bond of 179 billion to be able to clear this mess and get contractors back to work and employ more young people in the construction industry. And you're fighting that. How do we call you? Half-baked ideas, therefore brainless.
But when
every single thing that the president has proposed, they have opposed without proposing an alternative. They say that the alternative is to get Ruto out of power. How does that's an end in itself? And then in itself for a man who is leading them, who has told this country finally that the only alternative to this country is to have a government run as a share company. That's brainless. So I don't know what else you can say.
All right, let's give them 30 seconds. My director.
You must have alternative. You can also creative idea.
Okay.
You know why? And I think I'm the right person to challenge because Ngakwe was not with us.
Yes.
Senator Okech was with us in the same coalition called what? The current Azimio coalition.
Yes.
Who was the leader of Azimio coalition? It was Honorable Amolo Odinga, Raila Odinga. Did we have a manifesto? It's very much aware we had a manifesto.
Yes, that's
with very clear programs and projects.
Yes. Okay.
Now, where have
which now they don't have in
where
the
have those programs gone? Where have they gone?
We are not in government.
We had adjourned. So the thing is,
but
you
do not have alternatives.
No, we are telling you.
Okay,
you know very well we had the alternatives. The thing is, we are not in the government to implement the alternatives.
You're working with
all right, Gakuya. Gakuya, have the final say.
No. You don't know this. This is what we are saying. It should not have been this.
As you finalize, yes.
Okay, was part of us.
Okay, come on.
He had very clear manifesto saying what we need to achieve. And then today he's saying he doesn't know we have a manifesto.
No, but that's Gachagwa's manifesto.
No, Gachagua is not our
Gachagua is your leader.
No, he's not our leader.
He is your leader.
Okay.
We have principles in the coalition.
Gakuya, finally.
I didn't expect
so do you agree that Gachagua has no agenda?
My final
Okay. Decorum. Let's proceed with parliamentary procedure.
Kenyans
finally, yes,
remains here.
Okay.
And they have every reason to evaluate the performance of the sitting regime, the current regime. And out of what they will evaluate, If the average is anything below 50, they have no choice but to set it home. So whether it will be defended by broad-based or not, that will not matter. What will matter is the majority of Kenyans, what their say will be.
And the truth will speak for itself.
For itself.
Well, let's agree to disagree, gentlemen. Asanteni sana for your time. That's all the time we had right here on KTN Prime. Just to appreciate my guests, Eddie Okech, the Senator of Migori County, Makali Mulu, the Member of Parliament for Kitui Central, and James Gakuya, Embakasi North Member of Parliament. We definitely appreciate your input. Things got a little bit heated towards the tail end, and I think that's a reason to have you guys back again. My name is Jesse Rogers. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.